हेलो गाइस, कैसे हैं आप सभी लोग। तो बॉडी बिल्डिंग अपडेटेड के अंदर आप सभी लोगों का स्वागत है। एंड आर्नोल्ड क्लासेस 2025 से जुड़ी सबसे लेटेस्ट एंड फास्टेस्ट अपडेट लेके मैं आ चुका हूं, जिसमें गाइस आज की इस वीडियो के अंदर हम लोग देखने वाले हैं आर्नोल्ड श्वार्ज़नेगर, क्रिस बमस्टर एंड डाइक लंसफर्ड का इंटरव्यू। सो सारा कंप्लीट इंटरव्यू आप लोग को देखने को मिल जाएगा। सो वीडियो को गाइस एंड तक देखते रहना। एंड आर्नोल्ड क्लासेस 2025 से जुड़ी सबसे लेटेस्ट एंड फास्टेस्ट अपडेट देखने एंड जानने के लिए आप लोग बॉडी बिल्डिंग अपडेट को सब्सक्राइब करके बेल नोटिफिकेशन को ऑल भी जरूर से प्रेस कर लेना, जिन्होंने अभी तक नहीं किया एंड जो चैनल पे पहली बार आए हों। तो गाइस आप लोग वीडियो को एंजॉय करिए। मैं मिलता हूं आप सब लोगों से वीडियो के लास्ट में।
History, winning the Classic Physique Olympia 6 consecutive times before calling it a career this past Olympia. You know him as Cbum. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Chris Bumstead.
How are you? You all right?
Wow, wow, wow. Chris, we're going to have you sit right there. Between these two gentlemen, they have accounted for 31 Olympia titles, so you're witnessing greatness on this stage.
I know.
So I want to start on a common theme for the two of you, because both of you recently announced your retirement, you as a competitor, you as a coach, stating family as the reason. Now you, Chris, recently becoming a father, welcoming a beautiful daughter into your life. You reflect upon that decision, that announcement. When did you know it was time, and when did you know you were going to make that announcement on the Olympia stage?
So funny enough, in 2023, is that better? Can you hear me? Hello everybody, nice to meet you. Before that Olympia that I was going to be done, and then I didn't announce it the year before because in my heart I wasn't really ready to do it. And then over the year, having my daughter, starting to reevaluate my life, things start to change, starting to think about what's the difference between like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Olympias. Is 7 Olympias really going to make a difference and add that much more to my life? It would be beautiful. Or would I rather be able to, protect my health, spend more time with my family, that time that I'll never get back, and focus on different things in life. And I knew it was the right thing to do. So leading in that to Olympia, I was like, I'm going to announce it on stage when I'm done, soak in the moment, and then step away. And gratefully, I haven't had any regret yet. We'll never know if that itch comes back, but right now I know it was the right decision.
And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But Hani, whereas with Chris, it was the aspect of not wanting to diet anymore, considering all the commitment that it takes to diet and becoming a father for the first time, and the level of commitment it takes as a father, as a husband, and as a businessman. You yourself, again, very far along in your business career, in your coaching career. You have a young son as well, and I remember about a week ago before you announced your retirement, you told me, again, you wanted to be there for him. You wanted to be at his next football game. You wanted to spend more time with him. What was that moment for you when you decided it was time to transition to the next stage of your career?
Well, it kind of goes back to when Chris was deciding whether this was going to be the last one or not. So I haven't retired from the industry, but I've retired from the fact that I can't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning after going to bed at midnight, or getting up at 7 in the morning after going to bed at 4 a.m. because I'm on a Middle Eastern time schedule, and all the things that I was doing that was beating me up. So it was ultimately so that I could be able to create that quality of time in the next several years, where, as we all know, kids, when they become teenagers, there's going to be a time where you're not going to want to hang out with dad anymore. So right now it's still cool, and I want to be able to take advantage of that. Who knows down the road if things will change when he gets older. But for now, I really want to be able to give it back to my wife, who's been my rock the whole time, and then my son, who's going to eventually grow out of this phase of wanting to hang out with dad.
Well, for those that don't know, Hani's son, Cameron, is actually one of the better interviewers in the bodybuilding world. And I mean, look, he's been going to you and at that, against the number 4 bodybuilder in the world, Martin Fitzwater, at the Prague Pro. And it was such a cool spectacle. I think fans around the world really had an appreciation for seeing someone like you, the profile that you bring to the stage, someone like Martin, the profile that he brings on stage, clashing halfway across the world. It was just such a cool vibe about it all. When did you decide that you wanted to try your hand at the open class? And when did you decide Prague was going to be that show?
I mean, Hani knows that every single year going into the Olympia, I'm like, maybe I'll do an open show right after. Maybe I'll just hop in, put on 10 pounds and see what happens. And he always kind of rolled his eyes, didn't really take it seriously. But this being my last year I was going to compete, I knew it was my last opportunity to do that. And, you know, people always kind of like to compare Classic to Open and, like, what's your favorite division? And I was like, here's a good chance to really see what it would look like if a top Open guy and a top Classic guy with really no time to prepare. I didn't have a year. I just had a couple of weeks between shows to see what our physiques and how they would hold up. So I really wanted to do it. And I wasn't really sure going into why I felt like I needed to do it and I wanted to do it so bad. And it honestly wasn't until I was standing backstage in Prague and my heart was like fluttering. I felt this nervous excitement that I hadn't felt that since I was like an amateur or like maybe my first Olympia. You know, when you're an underdog and there's no expectation on you, you're expected to be the younger guy coming in. It's just fun, it's exciting. I didn't know what was gonna happen. The last 5 years on the Olympia stage, it was expectation for me to win. It was pressure to be the best. It was pressure to be continuously setting a new standard for classic physique. Open bodybuilding was just for fun, and being able to be on stage and experience that like nervous flutter before getting on stage again, not knowing if I'm even gonna make it in the first call out. Like I had no idea what was gonna happen, how I'd stack up to these guys. And being backstage and experiencing that, I was like, this is what I wanted to feel one last time before like hanging up the posing chunk, so to speak.
You know, it was such an interesting conversation when pundits, when we heard Steve Weinberger's opinions of the show, the comparison between you and Martin. Take us through that moment where you step out on stage and now you're standing next to Martin and now you're not standing next to fellow classic physique Olympians, or classic physique competitors rather. What was that like, that experience, and just seeing, oh shoot, these guys are a little bigger than me. This isn't the same, you know, kind of profile that I'm used to competing against.
I mean, it was nothing but exciting, you know, and Martin told me after the show that I actually scared him shitless in the morning. He was like, I was not expecting that, and you had me nervous up there. And honestly, a lot of people think all the work's done before getting on stage, but that...
Everybody in that auditorium was super excited. And again, getting him to be able to feel like that energy without the nervousness, but I also still think he only did it because he wanted to feel like what it feels like to lose, because he hasn't lost in so long.
you know what was so cool about it, for those that watched the Prague Pro live stream, it was so cool to see, and again, you get this on the other side of the world, the appreciation that the fans have for bodybuilding in general. I mean, the raucous crowd, they were loud for everyone. You know, when Martin won, they're all chanting, Martin, Martin. Really cool to see. I think it put a very nice cap to your career. But when you reflect back, Chris, on your accomplishments as a classic physique competitor, as a bodybuilder, 6 Olympia titles, the most dominant in a relatively young division, what stands out for you most when you reflect upon the different chapters of that dynastic run, and what do you take from being on top of the classic physique world for as long as you were?
Tough question. Like, what am I most proud of, essentially? I would say, like, regardless of the amount of titles I have, what I'm most proud of was not what I did, but how I did it. You know, I really, from the beginning, wanted to set the standard of what classic physique was going to become, but I didn't want it to just be about my body. I wanted it to be about how I carried myself. You know, there's a good amount of young gentlemen who look up to me, and I wanted to be a proper role model who was, you know, someone that my mother would be proud of, someone that if they were to look up to, their mother would be proud of, and I think I did a good job at that. You know, I hope I did. You know, I tried to elevate myself both mentally, emotionally, and physically throughout the years, and I was proud that I was able to sustain that year after year after year. So I think that's the biggest accomplishment I feel.
One thing that I could say, and I think everybody here can relate to this sentiment, you know, I still remember when I interviewed you prior to the 2019 Classic Physique Olympia, and I still remember.
I mean, I think going back to me at a young age, I was petrified of public speaking. Like, even competing, being in front of crowds, I would get so nervous, so anxious. I'm always in my mind looking at people, wondering what they're thinking of me, like completely in my head, and I was a very anxious person. And I truly think the only way to get over that and to like continue to evolve is to believe you can evolve and to put yourself into those situations. So I was thrown into situations like this with hundreds of people on you, YouTube videos, events, competitions. I was thrown into these positions where for so many years I was so anxious and scared doing them, but the more I did it, the more I just slowly felt better. And you know, reading books and working on yourself is amazing, but you really got to jump into the mix of things, do the things that scare you, put yourself into the mix, and you know, focus on what's important to you. And like I said, all along, yes, I wanted to grow my body, but my biggest goal was to continuously mentally evolve. Everyone knows how to eat chicken and rice and train hard. What differentiates champions versus 6-time champions? It's their mind. It's their ability to repetitively do the same thing, keep their mind on right, maintain healthy relationships in their life so that they feel secure. When life starts to go to shit, they can come home to a rock-solid wife. Those different things like that were always so important to me, and over the years that continued to evolve, I leaned into that more and continued to be successful, and it kind of just worked out. So, you know, I'm grateful I've had amazing people surrounding me. I truly believe it's the circle around me that has kept me humble, you know, and I've just tried to pay back that respect for what they've given me with the love that I can.
Hani, you know, I'm going to ask you a similar question, but in a different way. You've seen your evolution. Obviously, everybody knows you as a 25-time winning Olympia coach, but obviously we know you as the founder of Evogen. Over the last few years, you've really made your mark in terms of your own personal brand. We've seen the success you've had with your podcast. I mean, I've been watching the Rate Your Physique segments, and they're great. You know, you have a sponsorship with Young LA, you know, a brand that is, you know, known as a quote-unquote young person's brand. You're in better shape. I feel like a lot of things have come together for you over the course of the last 5-6 years. What can you say has been the bottom line, the common denominator between things in terms of working on your brand, committing to your health, and obviously you seeing the results in terms of your business, in terms of your coaching?
You know, I think it's really about making sure that you understand you can grind and grind, and in the beginning of the grind, there's no balance or very little. And you should try to create some balance, but when you have a business and you have clients at the degree I did, what really happens is that there's a point where you can grind so hard that you can literally grind the essence of yourself off. And that's what I started to realize. And you know, me and this gentleman next to me, we had a lot of those conversations because again, it was the twilight of his career, and I've been going over 30 years. And you know, obviously, you know, I'm trying to build Evogen the brand, and I'm trying to also be part of other brands that I really enjoy. But what's really important for me was the fact that I wanted to try to reclaim balance. And again, you can't buy time back. So the health part of it started to fall in there too, because again, I'm doing all the things you weren't supposed to do. Don't eat, don't sleep, don't train, and just take care of everybody. But then what's gonna happen? You don't wanna be a post on Generation Iron, right? You don't wanna be that guy. So that's where it really started to dawn on me that it's better to try to quit while you're ahead and while you still have chips on the table, instead of waiting to the point where you can't make that decision, that decision unfortunately would be made for you. So that's what it really boiled down to. So it was a lot of the conversations with Chris and my wife, and being able to talk about it. But it's really, it kind of went in parallel with what Chris was doing. But again, I've been doing it for so long that I wanted to make sure I did it on my terms.
I am getting the wrap it up signal, so a couple of quick hitters. Chris, you look at what Classic Physique has given you, not only as a competitor, not only your platform, but really everything you've been able to develop now in terms of your brand, your business. Now that you're on the other side of the equation, what is your plan in terms of growing the Classic Physique division, giving back to these crop of Classic Physique competitors?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of handing the torch off to the next people to do it. You know, they take my place and continue to grow the sport. I've had conversations with the Olympia and wanting to be involved with that. You know, as a competitor myself, there's some things that I wasn't a huge fan of the way things were operated, and I think can be a lot better for the fans and the athletes. So, you know, now that I'm not competing, I can give them shit and not be worried about their opinion of how I feel. So I've been doing just that. And they're listening, they agree with everything, but it's a big business, it's a big legacy brand, it's been around for a while, so to change things is hard. But I'd love to be involved however I can. I'm still communicating with them on how to work that out. But I think, you know, the athletes are going to be what does it. The Urs, the Wesleys, Mike Summerfield, even the young come-ups like Sam Sulek now, turning pro yesterday, killing the game. You know, it's people like that that make the sport exciting. It's an individual like Sam coming through the ranks that are choosing to share their story in an authentic way and work their ass off every day that inspire the next generation to continue to do what they love. It doesn't have to be in bodybuilding, but you know, Sam inspires people to work hard every day and stay true to themselves, and I respect the hell out of that, and that's what's going to grow the sport. So if there's any way I can support these athletes to continue to do that, you know, take some lessons from my mistakes, I'll absolutely be in their corner doing just that.
One final one for you, Hani. Again, what's next? You're no longer coaching until one day you might get the itch. Is that door still open?
No, you know, right now I'm not coaching top Olympia athletes. I'm working on my coaching platform.
Right.
So my coaching platform, my app, I'm working on putting a lot of things together. Chris had motivated me to do so much more on social media since we started working together. That went absolutely to the next level. So I'm really looking forward to being able to launch my coaching, and that's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
There is one thing very important, Hani. A few weeks ago, I had a chance to interview you on stage at the Dubai Muscle Show, and you made the point about one of the efforts that you're going to be undertaking over the course of the next year, and that is, again, Hani, as you know, is originally is Iranian, coached Hadi Chupan, and we all know that Hadi, despite the fact that he's a Mr. Olympia, one of the top bodybuilders in the world, it is difficult for Hadi and fellow Iranian bodybuilders to get to this country. There was another Iranian, Behruz Tabani, 3-time Olympia qualified, but because of that visa issue was not able to come to the US to compete. If you can tell, and you told me that you were going to engage in efforts to maybe help these deserving Iranian athletes, if you want to share with this audience maybe a little bit more on what you plan to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things have changed since the new administration, so there's going to be possibly even more paperwork now. I mean, even going from Canada back to the US is becoming more and more difficult. But what we're doing is just allowing the teams out there from around the globe who are having problems coming in the United States, especially the guys like from Iran, they've got such huge amounts of passion for the industry. We're not letting you give up. We're trying to find ways of being able to get those professional visas, professional athlete visas. So we're really trying to dig because it's so difficult. I know we took several years to get Hadi's, and then now that they've known him and they know that he's gonna go and he's not staying, he's going back because he has a family, he has a gym. He's a mainstream celebrity with 9 million followers on IG, and he's got just, literally he's on the 9 o'clock news in Iran. So they do that, but
for years, the speculation was, is this the year Chris is going to retire? Is this the year Chris is going to retire? Now you retire. Now the speculation is going to be, is this the year Chris comes back? Is this the year Chris comes back as an open class bodybuilder? Is that door even slightly open that you would ever come back and at that as an open class bodybuilder, or is this chapter of your career completely closed?
I mean, the exciting part about speculation is that it's just speculation. So who knows? Maybe I'll pull a Kai Green and bullshit you guys for the next decade. Or not, we'll see. But I'll leave it up to the fun guessing for now. I'm going to be leaving it up to the boys on stage to take care of business.
Well, Chris, you, Hani.
sorry, Sid, I got a question for Chris.
Yeah.
I got to interrupt.
Oh, here we go.
This is when we went to breakfast this morning, I said I was going to ask you a question.
Oh, boy.
Next time we do a podcast, why not just do it here? If you would have won Prague and you would have qualified to do the Olympia in the open division,
Here we go.
would you have done it?
No. Wouldn't have changed anything. I knew in my heart
Who believes
I
that?
was done a year before that.
Not everybody says no.
I guess we'll never know.
To be continued.
To be continued. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Chris Bumstead and Hani Rambod. All right, so in new Arnold Classic tradition, and the both of you can do this, one of you can do this, we're going to take a giant group selfie.
Everyone stand up. I'm going to try and squeeze everybody in.
Here we go. Let's try to get everybody in on this.
Maybe get a 0.5.
At least watch the one that Arnold came on. Come on.
So, you know, obviously I'm getting to know Jocko better now, but through the videos and all the motivation, I'll tell you what, I've watched a lot of the motivational videos getting ready for this Arnold. And so the values and principles that you carry alone, I feel that I also share through my wrestling days back in early high school and college, and now as an IFBB Pro bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, that's another part of the roots, you know, knowing your.
I just tell you guys, I'm not trying to hype up anything at all, I promise. But sincerely, this is the first time in a very long time that I'm legitimately excited to present my physique to you all. And so I promise you that it's going to be an incredible, incredible show, an incredible weekend for bodybuilding. I promise you that.
Right on. Well, like I said, want to keep this short. I know you're going through it right now. Appreciate it. Everyone, let's give it up for the man, Derek. Thanks, everybody.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rocco, thank you so much, man.
तो गाइज आज की इस वीडियो के अंदर तो सिर्फ इतनी अपडेट्स थे अर्नोल्ड क्लासिक 2025 से जुड़ी सबसे लेटेस्ट एंड फास्टेस्ट अपडेट देखने एंड जानने के लिए आप लोग बॉडी बिल्डिंग अपडेटर को सब्सक्राइब करके बेल नोटिफिकेशन को ऑल पे जरूर से प्रेस कर लेना। मिलता है नेक्स्ट वीडियो के साथ में, तब तक के लिए बाय गाइज।